Well, one of my favorite quotes is, there are moments that mark your life. Moments when you realize that nothing will ever be the same, and time is divided into two parts, before this and after this. One of those moments for me was when my nephew was born. I call him my little buddy. Kevin Foster St. Hilaire II was born on September 6, 1995. Now, to be perfectly honest, the vast majority of us were expecting a girl to be born that day. The last 2 or 3 generations of my family were comprised mostly of girls, with the exception of the obvious male counterparts necessary for procreation. Immediately, we knew we had a lot to learn. We were very surprised. To quote my sister in the delivery room, now what? The first couple of months went about as expected. He cried when he was wet, he cried when he was hungry, he cried when he was hurt. But as time went on, we noticed certain behavioral patterns in him that were apparent in the adult males that we knew at the time. Pretty soon, we had our own little catchphrase for whenever Kevin would say or do something characteristic of the men in our lives. That's built in! Who knew? Well, I was not about to let this resource go unused. I pulled out my mental pen and pad and decided to let the learning begin. Lesson number 1, shapes and sizes. One night, my parents and I, and my nephew and my sister went out to Outback Steakhouse to eat. Kevin was about 3 years old and, in my opinion, the most adorable child east of the Mississippi. He was far from being shy, and everybody who walked by our table wanted a piece of him. One woman in particular was very pretty in the face and had a very full figure. And as she sauntered off from our table, my nephew cocked his head over to the side and leaned over as far as he could until she was completely out of sight. Okay. Now it's no secret that women come in different shapes and sizes. But what I didn't know at that age at the time was that what men find visually appealing differs completely across the board. And not just in terms of size, but in terms of skin color, in terms of height, in terms of hair texture and length. And apparently they've made these decisions by age 3. Lesson number 2, the way you make me feel. Kevin began 5th grade at age 10 in a new school. He began making new friends immediately, one of which was a girl named Jasmine. Pretty soon, Jasmine was a part of every conversation. And the conversation that my nephew had with my dad revealed why. Papa, he said, I don't know what it is about her, but if I'm having a bad day, all I have to do is talk to Jasmine, and I just feel so much better. Now, I don't know what Jasmine was saying to my nephew, but I imagine that their interactions were positive. Maybe they shared common interests. Maybe they had a similar sense of humor. Maybe just by being herself, Jasmine helped my nephew forget anything negative going on in his life. The point is, he liked the way he felt around her. And what a concept. If a man likes the way he feels around you, he'll stick around. Lesson number 3. Can you hear me now? About 2 or 3 years ago, my nephew, age 14, came out to Arizona to visit. And yes, that means I'm still learning. One day he was at my parents' house playing a NASCAR video game. And just kind of minding his own business, but my mom was having a conversation with me about the amount of sugar in one of her soft drinks. So Kevin piped in towards the end of the conversation and asked, are calories and sugar the same thing? I contemplated for a moment on how to best answer in a way that would explain the difference. Excuse me. Well, no, I said, calories and sugar aren't the same thing, but you can get calories from sugar. Does that make sense? Kevin, did you hear what I just said? Yes, calories from sugar. Calories from sugar. Now, some people call this selective listening. But what I didn't realize that I know now is that I simply gave him more information than he asked for. Once Kevin got the answer he wanted, he checked out of the conversation and went back to the task at hand, his NASCAR video game. In his mind, he was just being efficient. To say that my nephew has been and will continue to be an integral part of my life is a gross understatement. I could share with you numerous life lessons I've obtained just by having him in my life. But much of it pales in comparison to the gained insight and newfound patience I developed for the opposite sex. I think it's very easy to understand certain quirky behaviors when you observe them in the innocence of a child. And even though Kevin's an adult now, I can't believe it, I'm sure I'll be learning from him for years to come. After all, everything that I need to know is already built in. Thank you.